don't know some of you people. We may have to do an introduction thing here.
Yeah.
You ever okay with that? We haven't done one of those in a while, have we?
I don't know what it's like in your all states, but we keep seeing reports about how the coronavirus cases have spiked up since everything started opening back up, and everyone's now freaking out. It's like we can't win. We don't know what to do anymore.
If we've learned anything, it's that we're not in control. No, and most of that is due to the county that I live in, everybody. Those spikes are coming from me. You're welcome.
All right, Nathan, are you getting us started, or is Leslie?
We want to start, or should we wait a couple?
We can start. Let's do introductions. There's some new faces here, so let's do introductions real fast as people come in, and we'll just go down the list. So Kathy Szynski, you got us first.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Kathy Szynski, General Manager, University of Michigan, Michigan Daily, Wolverine Media Group, Michigan Enzian Yearbook, Gargoyle Humor Magazine, Shea Fashion Magazine. Good to be here. And outgoing CMBAM board member.
Leslie?
Hi, I'm Leslie Murphy. I'm the programming director. I am not outgoing. I'm in. I'm at Northwest Missouri State University, and we don't have any instructions, so I don't know what else to say.
That's it. That's all we're doing today. I couldn't think of something clever. If you think of something clever, let's see it. So next I got Betsy.
Betsy Meyer. I'm the professional advisor for the McKinley Avenue Agency at Ball State University. We also house all media sales for student publications at Ball State. I've been to a couple of these when I can, slowly getting involved over the last couple of years, but it's just me and students, so I kind of had to get myself settled before I jumped in here.
Welcome. Heather.
Heather from the University of Oklahoma. I'm Member Recognitions and Awards Director of CMBAM. We do the OU Daily, OUDaily.com, Crimson Quarterly Magazine, and Boomer Sooner.
President Tammy.
I'm Tammy Von Jorny. I'm with Kent State Student Media, and I am the outgoing president, and that's about it. I leave for Hilton Head on Monday, so I'm excited.
Michelle Curlin just messaged she wishes she could be here.
Oh, that's nice. Patrick, you're up next, buddy.
I am the advertising director for Garnet Media Group, which is the student media organization at the University of South Carolina. And Tammy, let me know where you're staying in Hilton Head so I can call them and warn them.
I'll jump to Sarah. She's your partner in crime.
She's my boss lady.
Yeah.
Hey, Sarah Scarborough, Director of Student Media at the University of South Carolina. We've got the Daily Gamecock, WSCFM, SGTV, and Garnet Magazine. Tammy, when you're driving through, wave when you pass through Columbia.
If she could cut through the humidity.
Do you call her boss lady? Just curious.
No, she actually would probably fire me, and I'll probably be fired after this call. So it was nice knowing all of you.
Well, yeah. It's been cool, man. Nicole.
Hi, I'm Nicole Pilcher. I am with the Daily Nebraskan at the University of Nebraska. I am the Director of Marketing and Community Sales, and I just started in February, so I'm still trying to figure everything out.
And you got a pandemic.
Will.
Hey guys, I'm the advertising advisor and sales manager at the College Heights Herald. That's WKU Student Publications.
Okay, the name I have here is TSKREHAR.
Hi, Tammy Screhard. I'm the Assistant Director of Advertising for Student Publications at UT Arlington.
Awesome. Andrea.
Andrea Watson, the Sales, Marketing, and Design Manager for the Daily Toreador at Texas Tech University.
And Alan, it looks like your partner left, but you can just introduce yourself now, I guess.
Yeah, Alan Vaughn, General Manager of the Daily Nebraskan. Sorry, my kid just got home, and I'm not bragging, but they made a bracelet for me.
Nice.
So if you want one, just let me know. We'll get them in the mail.
Yeah, just send me a quote, man. Send me the media.
Yeah. It's part of our new business strategy. Anyway.
Ellen.
Unmuting. Hi, Ellen Hernandez. I'm with the Daily Universe at Brigham Young University. I'm also the incoming Secretary Treasurer for CMBAM. Excited to be a part of that organization. Actually, that board. I've been a part of the organization for a few decades now.
Sam.
I'm Sam Oldenburg. I work at Western Kentucky University with Will. I advise the creative side of our advertising as well as our Life and Culture magazine.
Awesome. Eric?
Hi, I'm Eric Jacobs. I'm the General Manager of the Daily Pennsylvanian at the University of Pennsylvania.
And conveniently, Catherine is next.
I'm Catherine Ross. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at the Daily Pennsylvanian, and Eric is my boss. Hi, everyone.
Kit. Are you there, Kit? There we go.
Sorry, I was doing work on another computer and I didn't want you guys to see I was looking away.
as long as you weren't on the bathroom, we're okay.
I was trying to do something and I was facing away from the computer. My name is Kit Donahue. I'm co-publisher, general manager at University of Illinois, which is Daily Illini, Illio Yearbook, WPGU magazine, or a WPGU radio station.
And then we got James.
Happy Thursday, everyone. I'm James Wilson, the Sales and Marketing Advisor here at the University of Michigan.
Lovely. And Maria. Or Mariah. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. Are you with us?
I muted.
Well, someone's listening and named that. So, guys, we did that in under 10 minutes. Good job, everybody. Good job, us.
It's a record.
James, I got a quick question. So if you all don't play football this year, does that count as a win for Michigan over Ohio State?
Yeah. I think so. So for those of you that didn't hear the drinking game, the word today is disinfectant, as well as Clorox. And then what was your thermometer? Thermometer was the other one. Today's going to be a fun one. Leslie, we didn't get any other topic suggestions or anything that other than what we talked about yesterday, right? Okay, so today is mostly just about let's talk about our plan for fall. Some of us may be giving kind of a thumbs up that we're supposed to come back in fall. Some of you have been told probably it's not going to happen. But let's just kind of have a discussion starting off with what's the plan? What things are you having to do as far as your area, your physical location, and some of that kind of stuff. So let's just kind of talk off about physical location strategies and what you're having to do there and see where it takes us. Yeah.
We got word that if we cannot be 6 feet apart, we have to have a mask on campus when we come back in the classrooms and everywhere. So obviously in the newsroom. They haven't sent that information out to students yet, but we as staff members got it. And they also said disciplinary action will be taken according to the handbook if we don't follow those rules. And I said, no problem. So we, in our newsroom, we actually kind of have it good as far as not having to install anything new or make any adjustments that way, because we're already in pods with dividers. So our policy is going to be in the newsroom. If you are not at a pod, at a desk by yourself, you have to have a mask on. So that's going to be our policy as far as enforcing it. That will probably make us all nervous, depending on what type of students we have. But that is our plan. A lot of offices are put, like, I know Tammy's talked about putting up plexiglass. Do you have to, is that just like coming from the university? Are they paying for everything out of a special COVID budget, or do you have to supply any of that?
We're paying for it because our university pays for nothing. No, a couple of things that they're doing at Kent State is that it's mandatory for every single person on campus to wear a mask, or you cannot be on campus. So the university is providing every single staff, faculty, adjunct, and students with masks. So that is something that they are providing for us. They're giving us, like, I think 5 for staff and faculty and 3 for students. And they're going to have them branded. That way people know if we're affiliated with the university or not. The plexiglass we are paying for out of our own capital equipment account. We had to install plexiglass at the opening of our office, that basically when people walk in, they will stand behind the glass. So anytime a student comes to fill out paperwork, or anytime an advertiser comes in to drop off payment or for meeting, they'll have to check in there first.
I'm envious of those of you that have at least that much specificity. We have been told they will have to wear masks, but that's about as far as we've gotten. The one thing that the guy who runs the labs in the college, he doesn't necessarily really mess with our space, but he said what they're doing in the labs is just every other computer, they're just taking away the keyboard and the chair. And I could certainly do that in our newsroom with the keyboards, but I swear the chairs are like bunnies and they multiply. So even if I move half the chairs out, they'll just reappear. But so we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do other than buy Clorox wipes and hand sanitizer in bulk.
Yeah, I'm with Andrea right now. I think, fortunately, we have a huge construction project going on in our building right now. It's funny, I got a text from one of my summer editor-in-chief last Thursday saying, so now that Governor Whitmer's relaxing the state of Michigan orders, the students are asking if we can get back in the newsroom now, right? You make the decision on that. And I was just like, no, you're not doing that. So, I mean, my question for, I guess for the group too, as it relates to this, you know, the editorial students are there at the Michigan Daily pretty late into the night, long after the professional staff has gone home, right? So how will we enforce these guidelines, right? So if you say something to the managing sports editor that you can't have 12 students sitting around the same table planning content or whatever, but nobody's there to say, put your masks on and do this and do that. I mean, that's something that is concerning to me.
I actually asked that question to Dr. Sparks, who's my boss, the chair of the journalism department. And because my concern is, yeah, I'm not there all the time. And our people, you know, there are going to be students or faculty that, you know, want to tell on us if they see somebody in the agency office that isn't following guidelines. And, you know, I want to know for myself and the students, you know, is there going to be protocol for that? Am I going to get in trouble anytime a student is reported? And he hadn't had any word on that. Ball State's been very slow to make decisions on anything. All I really know as far as that goes is they're going to limit by square footage the number of students that can, or anyone that can be in any space. So it's not even really, if I could fit my students in being 6 feet apart, that doesn't matter. They're doing it by the square footage of the space, and they're talking about hanging up shower curtains. So, but I haven't got final word on any of that.
We had a similar conversation at Brigham Young University. The university hasn't even announced what we're doing for the fall. They said it won't be till July till they know. Their registrations have been pushed back. So we're all kind of in limbo right now. But as a staff, we had a conversation about that and agreed that we follow the guidelines of the university. We make sure that all of our students within the news organization and the media company understand what those are, but then they govern themselves. They're adults, they're taking care of themselves. They have to do that. We can't be held accountable for what they choose to not do on campus, but they need to know that they are accountable and responsible. I think that that's the policy that we're going to end up doing. As long as we've got a policy that is clear and in place that what they need to do moving forward, then it's up to them to follow it.
So Ellen, do you think you'll, we have students, on the editorial side that, they have their bylaws and they sign things about, who's, intellectual property and all of that kind of stuff. But as we move into this new scenario, I'm just wondering, we will also follow the guidelines of the university, but then, I guess, adding to it the things like, making sure that, I think contact tracing is going to be so important, right? And I think that's in the town halls I've attended at U of M, that, they really want to have what they're calling a public health informed semester, fall semester. And our president was talking about, you can't keep students from going to bar nights or hanging out with large groups of people. Most of them still think that they're invincible because, of people who have mostly gotten COVID. And, the university is concerned that, as students arrive back on campus, doing tracing, especially for those living in the residence halls, are doing testing, right? So then how will we, I'm just throwing this out there for everybody to just talk about. I mean, will you have your students sign something that will say, I will let you know immediately if I were like exposed or whatever, because then
Yeah, I just thought I'd kind of spread that out. That I think I've become more aware after today that it's more of a risk or a liability that the university is now kind of trying to mitigate as opposed to staying healthy. But the message that kept coming across was to supervisors, like, if you allow one person to come in, the phrase they kept using was protecting our perimeters, right? It's just understanding who we're allowing to come in and out. And because if they wipe out your workforce, that was kind of the message they got, that if one person gets sick, they could completely wipe out your workforce and you're going to be a lot more stressed as a supervisor. So
I'm glad you said that, Nathan, because it just occurred to me. Every so often throughout each year, we'll have a period where the students get, lazy. And from the editorial side, and they have people come here to do their interviews rather than going to people, which I realize is a whole different dynamic now either way. But guess what I think we're not going to let them do now? Bring extra people into the building.
Yep.
Our university has not like officially released, but has just through meetings to faculty and staff that will have, they'll go on Thanksgiving break and then have Dead Week, which we don't really have at our university, but Dead Week will just be continued at home. And then the holiday break will start for winter break. So we've already decided that we're cutting that edition. Is everyone, like, my thought process is if the students aren't on campus, we're not printing that week. Like, that's just kind of like how we were going. We didn't really follow that the first week that it happened. We went ahead and printed to be like the last one. But is that kind of like, or do you guys just lower the distribution, or do you just cut if they're not? Because if we have a situation where they're keep extending break by a week at a time, because I can see that happening, because decisions just keep coming as we get closer to the time the last decision was supposed to take effect, then we have a new one. So is anyone kind of have that plan, like if they're not here, we're not printing, or do you?
We are doing that. Kent State is also not coming back after Thanksgiving. We typically have a fall break, which is in October, right around homecoming-ish. And we're not having the fall break. Instead, we're starting later in August, and then they'll eliminate fall break. We'll leave at Thanksgiving. We are still going to print a paper that when we come back from Thanksgiving, but we're only distributing to downtown and not the campus, since the campus will be shut down pretty much.
Yeah, I was trying to decide, because a little less than half of ours go just out in the community, but I was trying to decide if that was worth it, because we already only print 3,500, so.
Yeah, we basically just chopped ours in half, and we're just going to deliver to the community only, because they're not even having staff and faculty come back. We have to work remote during Christmas, well, during the holidays.
Yeah, so I'll just throw out there, for those of you that, it seems like there's a trend, for those of you that haven't got official word, it sounds like the trend specifically for state schools is going to be after some kind of format where Thanksgiving break on, no one comes back. Like just by raise of hands, how many of you have that word so far? Yeah, so if you haven't gotten word yet, that's the plan. I think you should probably, most likely.
Our university came out with a whole website of stuff, still nothing super definitive, but we have a website. And our president specifically says in there, we will come back after, but we have 3 days of class after Thanksgiving, and then they start finals. So I don't really understand why, but hey, they don't ask me these things. But so we will continue to plan that we will have 2 issues post Thanksgiving, but we'll see if that actually holds.
Is everyone still printing the same amount this fall, like in terms of days?
We are.
We only print weekly now, so that's the plan. And I have recommended to editorial that we don't print after Thanksgiving break. Our office doesn't get to make that decision, but we recommended, but we haven't heard back yet, so.
Yeah, I think ours is going to be dictated. We're going to plan the schedule. But like if I have an advertiser that wants to run in December and they've already booked, we're going to run it, obviously. But we're very highly looking into not printing it all now.
We're most likely going from weekly to monthly, just for the fall.
We cut our weekly print, and we were able to get all of our student email addresses. So we're treating that Monday email as our weekly print issue, and they will print 2 special issues each semester. So we're not totally abandoning print. We'll still have something on our racks, but we'll be going. And I think Vanderbilt had a similar model years ago when they cut print. They didn't stop, they just replaced it with a different model of what that looks like. So that's our plan.
In the spirit of Nate's talking about risk management, which has exactly been my perception the whole time, and because I'm thirsty, they're providing hand sanitizer for us. in the at the university. But I thought it was really interesting because I didn't see that coming, but really just showed me how try not to be sarcastic here, how heightened they are of trying to just keep everyone safe, but also not get sued and do all of the things. And so they're like, we're going to start you out with a gallon of hand sanitizer. And then if you need more, let us know, or Clorox wipes, which I didn't expect them to do any of that at all. So I think that, and I only say that is to then push back on them if they say, of course, we're not going to pay for that. And then you can say, well, just it's worth a shot, because I never thought that they would do that. They're gonna, but like Tammy was talking about, provide masks and different things like that for us also. So I didn't see that. I didn't see any of that coming. We don't have print, as much print as you all or most people, but we're having to obviously then figure out how we're going to do some of our products, where digital products that need to be seen by student eyeballs that are on campus, right? So we're having to even retrofit some of those sales that we're doing around those products, or events, as we can't sell anything if no one's there. They extended the beginning of ours a week early, and it's on 1 week of online earlier than the original start date. They killed Labor Day and they got rid of the fall break. So it's just power through until Thanksgiving.
I think that's going to be a trend for sure.
Can you really kill Labor Day? I'm just wondering.
So I'm just going to kind of summarize things that we've heard so far, right? We've heard plexiglass. We've heard disciplinary action for not wearing masks. We've heard Clorox wipes, disinfectants, right? Square footage limits, the spacing of changing your space and structure. For example, we're getting rid of our couch and we're going to put in an 8-foot table, and that's going to become a new desk space. No more hangout lounge spaces that are not far apart. Moving of keyboards and chairs, almost removing the ability to work at certain stations. Contact tracing was brought up so that you're protecting your perimeter, you know who's coming in and out. If you guys didn't see, Will made an interesting comment in the chat about almost like having signups for when people will be in and out, so you can kind of limit your capacity. And then an interesting thing was the signing agreements and guidelines concept, an idea that we at least just get our students to cover our butts, but to also help them understand the importance of the situation, that they sign something or agreed to some kind of written document that they've been told. Whether or not we can, like Leslie talked about, fire them or just get upset and have conversations is another story. But was there anything else that I kind of missed, or things that you guys are planning on physically doing to your space as you're coming back?
I had a
Go ahead.
Sorry. I did have a conversation with our attorney today in regards to some of the things that we can actually mandate in the office relative to COVID. And I imagine that it might be different state to state, so I would check with your general counsel or a law expert in your area. But he even said, because we had a lot of students out covering protests and stuff, and now that the university is giving free COVID testing, that we can actually mandate that they get tested before they come back into the office. So I'd assume that having them sign an agreement like you're talking about is completely within the boundaries of us running a healthy organization. And we actually have a document that our governor has put out that all businesses that do want to do in-person like structuring of their offices has to follow the guidelines. So some of those guidelines may already be in place in your states. So I would recommend checking those out.
So
I was just going to say that I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Betsy. Yep.
She's new and she talks over everybody all the time. I have been told we have an equipment checkout room. So we use it some in advertising, but not much. It's mostly editorial. So if somebody wants to use a camera, they check it out. We have been told that once somebody checks out a piece of equipment, it will be quarantined for 5 days. Disinfected, but also quarantined. Now they're not doing They have said nothing. They understand people have to share desks and computers, and those will be wiped down. I can give you zero explanation for the quarantining of cameras, but I am told that's what the IT department is going to put in place at Ball State. So I don't know how we're going to cover anything, but.
Wow.
And you can't go buy more equipment because your budget's been cut, right?
Yes, and I will find out about our budget cut actually tomorrow morning. I know it's coming, so.
Have any of you been tasked? So for instance, our university has essentially asked departments and divisions and then groups like us to come up with essentially a plan, and they've given us some templates that we're supposed to kind of fill out, and then that's going to kind of be turned into risk management and kind of those committees and stuff like that. Is anybody else kind of currently being asked to, okay, seen a lot of head yeses.
We
so
have
again,
to come up, oh,
go ahead.
We have to come up with 3 different options. What happens if the students can mostly be back in our space normal? What happens if it has to be sort of a hybrid? And what happens if it has to be completely remote work again? I will tell you, after having seen what we saw for the last few weeks of the semester, if our students have to work completely remotely, we won't have a product by the end of it. But so clearly I'm rooting for option 1 or option 2.
We've been in the same boat, asked to, as a school, the School of Communications as a whole, including faculty and everybody, to come up with the 3 phases of if it's going back to normal or do a hybrid. It looks like, although I don't know for sure, but we'll probably end up with some sort of a hybrid type thing with more of the larger classes going online and all of that. But like I said before, decisions haven't been made. My big concern is that we're a residential school, and if they are going to allow freshmen to come back in and into the dorms, and how are they going to work that? And because a lot of our products, especially our freshman orientation and stuff, is tied to freshmen coming back, if they don't appear, then we don't have an audience and we don't have a product, which is one of our biggest sellers for the year. So we've got that challenge ahead of us that we're all holding our breath on till
I got
they.
a question about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sam, you can jump into if you want on this, but yeah, we've been working on our summer orientation magazine that we send out to every student that's going to be here in the fall. But I mean, it's been one of the hardest things to sell for right now, particularly in a pandemic, because particularly a lot of the retailers and restaurants, they're just now starting to open back up, and they're all like super tight with their budget and are just totally freaked out about wanting to spend any money right out the gate. And they're like, maybe in a couple months, but they're also kind of concerned about, I guess, Western's plans, like how many students are really going to be here, and are they going to have to leave early if this thing spikes back up? They're all just freaked out. And I didn't know if you guys have seen any success with that. If you have, please share, because it's not been as strong as it has been in previous years. And I just didn't know what you guys have been doing. But yeah, it's been a challenge. And I know for Sam, trying to gather some information, like as far as dates and stuff goes from the university, that's kind of been a challenge too. And yeah, just kind of been a mess.
We're in the same boat, Will. We're in the progress right now. We're producing the mailer that goes out. Our sales were about 45% of the previous years. And a lot of the information that we got from clients was either because it's so unknown, they don't want to commit. They just don't know. And that includes our school departments and things. I would say about 80% of our product comes from from different departments on campus advertising, majors and clubs and all of that stuff. And since they don't have a game plan for fall, they're hesitant to advertise because they don't know what to advertise. We've heard, a lot of them are like, oh, hey, we're going to wait to see what happens and we'll do the orientation edition in the fall. So we're hoping that that will materialize and maybe be able to make up some of that revenue. But yeah, we're just seeing, and a lot of our outside non-campus clients are either struggling financially or their business is tied to those students coming back to Provo. If they don't come back, they don't know. We actually approved, I got approval to guarantee some of this advertising. So if they take the risk to advertise with us and students don't come back, we'll refund them their money. We'll absorb the cost of it. But BYU is a private entity. We've got a little bit more support from the university because we're academically driven as well. So we've got a little bit of that cushion, which has taken the burden off of advertising somewhat.
I'm jealous.
But that was at least part of our success in getting as much advertising as we did, was the ability to guarantee that these clients will get that audience for fall.
Yeah, we just deadlined our orientation, and we were about 50% as well. We decided to push forward. I saw Betsy's comment there in the chat, if you guys want to have a look at that. We decided to push forward just because, and then if we feel like there's a change or there's something that comes up differently, that we will try to adapt and create a product that's similar. So for instance, we do an event that's called Down the Quad. It's where people can come up. It's one of the few times an off-campus group can come up and do something. We're planning both a virtual version and an in-person version right now. So we thought that if orientation guide doesn't go well, we can push kind of these other kind of things that come later, but hoping to make up some of that 50% that we didn't get from last time.
We were one of the.
Sorry, go ahead.
One of the reasons we decided to push it is because we've already lost the revenue, because that would have been last fiscal year. It was supposed to publish in June, so I decided we might as well just see what we can get. Now, we are also creating a companion website for it for the first time. And if we don't get the mailing addresses, while it will cost us more, we're talking about, because we normally just print enough for freshmen and we hand it out directly to them. But if we don't get the home addresses, we're going to insert it into the first issue of the Daily News and, hope they see it, because we're assuming any sort of street team marketing event where, we're not gonna be able to do that. You can't really hand things to people from 6 feet away. So we're a lot of hoping and praying right now.
I could speak on behalf of what we're doing at U of M for orientation, as we're just about to send ours to printer. Last year, I think we brought in about like 13 grand in revenue. This year, we're looking at about 10 grand. We're still printing our orientation issue, and we're doing direct mail to all incoming freshmen except international students. Some things that I've noticed, there's definitely a kind of market for student groups to advertise. We've noticed that a lot of student groups are looking to target those incoming freshmen, especially we have a big kind of event in the fall called Festival, where all the student orgs are on the diag and exchanging information. That may not happen this year, determined by COVID. But some student groups are interested in getting the word out, and they did buy a few ads in the orientation issue. Another thing that we noticed, small businesses, yes, they're struggling with ad buy or just having an advertising revenue. However, a lot of university accounts are looking to be proactive and move forward and kind of do business as usual, and trying to just be as proactive as they can for the next school year. So we saw some success. And now we're starting to kind of shift our efforts into really establishing a really robust CRM of all of the university accounts. U of M is very big. We have, thousands of departments and units with marketing communications contacts, a very large market pool of money. So that's kind of where our efforts are going to, but we've kind of seen some success. So we're kind of just going to start reshifting our efforts and those relationships with student groups and university accounts some more.
Yeah, because the biggest challenge that we face is that we're completely self-funded. So all the money that pays for our operating costs, our salaries for the students, for everything is all coming through our ad sales. And really for this magazine, it is a good opportunity for us to reach out to a lot of the campus departments, because this is their opportunity to brand their program and their majors. But at Western, across the board, there's been budget cuts and a lot of the departments have been told that they can't spend any money for this year, like for right now, so they can't be in it. So that was, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean that was a huge loss. And then on top of that, the local stores and retailers that are just now opening back up are a little hesitant to want to like jump right into it. So it's just been kind of just a snowball effect.
Yeah, and oh, go ahead. Oh, well, another thing that we've been using everything has been shifting with the orientation guide is probably our most targeted publication because it's going directly to the homes of these incoming freshmen. That was really a big selling point for us. And we've kind of been using this as an opportunity just to have a touch base with our clients to see where their budget is even, like what's even happening with them. Are they going to be sunsetting their organization? Are they doing some layoffs? And we've seen that with some organizations, but some other university departments are just moving forward business as usual. So it's been a good touch base for us just with some of
our new student guide is being printed right now because they're texting me about it. But we finished selling it pretty early before things were closing. So that obviously won't help anyone now, but it was already sold and we were only down like 15, 17%. So it's still really good, but distribution is rough. So we're going to, usually we hand them out, face to face at freshman orientation. Well, that's not happening. So, and I couldn't get addresses. I tried so hard. So I'm going to put them in their mailboxes, but I was also thinking on campus. But I was also thinking for the first paper last year, we delivered them to every dorm door, like a hotel. And I was thinking the bulk of our distribution is on paper day in the union for a 2-hour chunk. We put one in every hand that we see. That's the majority of our pickup. And we're not going to be able to do that. And I don't think people will be comfortable probably with doing that. So is anybody, I know like Western Kentucky, you guys did a lot of handout, like outside of buildings and stuff. Is there any way that we've come up with to edit that? Like, do I need to deliver to every door every week? Like a hotel?
Figure it out here yet either. We've talked about doing that, delivering to every dorm door. But so far, housing has been weird about whether they'll let us do that or let people into the buildings or not. So we don't know either.
They were down with it last year. They thought it was really cool. And then we put a flyer with it with lots of information, but I was thinking I could just put the new student guide in that too, if they have a problem with the mailbox thing, if that feels weird to them.
Actually takes
Housing
takes our back to school issue and puts it on every bed in the dorms, which is super helpful for us. One year they let us deliver the paper every day, or every day we printed it, and like we had these newspaper bags and we put them on every dorm door. And let me just tell you how pissed the students got. Like by mid-semester, we were getting all of this hate mail, and like the dorms were full of newspaper trash all the time. But for the back to school issue, it works great, but not for every day.
Yeah, we didn't get any complaints. Even some students were confused when it was time for the second week. When they would see us in the union, they're like, "Oh, I got it at my door." I was like, "No, there's not just one. We do it every week. It's new." But yeah, we didn't get zero complaints.
Yeah, we haven't quite figured out what to do with that, but I just know from when we would deliver the paper to the dorm like lobbies, and just our pickup rate from that was usually not very big. So I don't know what you do to fix that situation. That would have to be a talk with all of us, but it's a challenge.
We have permission for the university. We do a gift bag actually with our orientation edition and put it on the beds of every bed in the dorms. We get the gift bag sponsored. The last couple of years they've been like laundry bags that have the company logo on them and the BYU logo on them. Then we can sell swag and stuff into the bags, which makes them more appealing for the students to open and rifle through because they get all kinds of advertising swag along with the orientation edition and stuff. And it's been a really well received product for us. This is one of my biggest concerns as to why, if freshmen don't come, how am I going to actually remodel that revenue into something different? I don't know how to do it.
We've talked a little bit, so we talked about physical changes that you guys are having to do, kind of dabbled with policy. I maybe just want to open up that conversation a little bit more to break that open. We've talked a lot about orientation and some of these new revenues, but are you guys going to have to enforce different types of responsibilities, work environments that aren't necessarily physical, but that you've kind of had to put in your operational plans as you're putting those together? Has anyone gotten that far that you're foreseeing that might be helpful for the rest of us?
So I'll say something real quick. I've been on some calls with some other directors of people who have office space in the student union, like we do, and Campus Rec is also on that call. And something they've been discussing is the idea of cohorting and trying to make sure. So part of University of Nebraska's coming back to work from a staff perspective was we'll bring a third of them back now, bring a third of them back later, and then we'll see. But they're talking about at Campus Rec having complete different fleets of people coming in and working at different times. So because they said when they did a deep clean, somebody ended up testing positive and it wiped out that whole cleaning crew, right? So that kind of concept of if you're in the newsroom and there's 60 people in your newsroom and one person gets it, then all 60 are just out of action. So it was that kind of concept that I hadn't wrapped my head around, but was going to talk to the editor about that just from not that we can't be together, because we might be able to take the tape measure and say, okay, if you sit there and you sit there, that's fine. But then is just like, if everyone is there, then who's actually safe and what that looks like. So I think that concept of cohorting is what they described it as, is something I hadn't fully embraced yet and trying to wrap my head around.
I'm curious if anyone has any plans yet or figured out what to do about, like, cleaning, wiping down surfaces in your office. We get a housekeeper who comes through once a day. That is hardly, cleaning restrooms every 2 hours or every person who comes in. Students sitting down at keyboards, desks, tables, and stuff like that. And I'm just curious if anyone has an idea how, other than asking students to just clean up after themselves, is there anything that you're planning to do to try to abide by best practices?
I think we're going to kind of base it on the station that a lot of, or the model that a lot of radio stations are doing, which is the DJ, cleans before and after their shift. And so I think we would probably take that model because we're being provided with cleaning supplies and wipes and masks and all that good stuff. And so we'll probably create something that we can implement across the board, where if you sit down at a shared workstation, you do a wipe down and then you're expected to wipe it down after your shift is over. And that's kind of where we're going with that, I think.
You do have to be careful if you're using like the wipes.
Right.
There's a chemical reaction that some of the industrial cleaners have with like wipes like that will burn you. So make sure you know what housekeeping or custodial uses on your stuff when you're not looking. Because and they need to make sure they're not
allow our custodians to clean our equipment. That would be something that we manage, I think.
Okay. Yeah, so
that's a good point
for that.
I'm guessing, Leslie, is another reason to, in theory, hopefully try to procure supplies through the university, because you would think they might at least have some concept of that if I don't.
Yeah, they should. They did stop the registrar's office from using the Clorox wipes that they had because they go down and spray everything every night. But in some offices where they haven't supplied them with anything, they are telling them just to call when they need something wiped down every time.
Our maintenance staff also mentioned along those lines, Leslie, is just be careful of what cleaning supplies you do use, especially if you're using them on your equipment, because they are theorizing that it will just destroy them over time. So they were even talking about, you should probably just, if you've got some extra money, just buy some extra mice or maybe a cheaper keyboard, or, you know, this kind of disposable concept, which of course I hadn't thought about.
Yeah, and we need to do more research, but it might be safer on some electronics to just do like spray alcohol. But I don't want to do that until I do more research.
So, but if it's on fire, that means it's just extra sanitized then, right?
Yes.
One thing we're doing at Kent State is that we've noticed over the past couple years, the students are required to have laptops for our university anyways, and most of them have preferred using their laptops. Is we're actually removing most of the computers that we have from all of our workstations, and we're just having them work on their own laptops. That way the only thing they have to wipe down is the desk when they come and they go.
We've really, so last year we invested a lot of time and money into a studio for our video and audio that wasn't the live studio for radio, for photography, all that kind of stuff. And here we are now having to kind of limit access, we think. So a lot of the broadcast part of what we're doing is kind of gearing a lot of, we're not there yet, we're still coming up with, that's kind of why I asked, is I think I really appreciate Eric's question is, you know, they have covers for mics that are disposable, right? Just like they do with masks, right? And so we're saying, do we put one on there? Do we put one on and then it gets taken off and thrown away and a new one goes on every night? We got cameras that have touch screens on them, right? Our board has some touch screens. You're going to be touching a board. And we haven't figured it out yet, but we're thinking that we're going to not necessarily wipe stuff down with this, like the heat, right? I'm not going to use these. But to just train the students to, again, like Sarah was saying, clean upon entry because you don't know who was there before you, and then clean upon exit because it's the nice, good thing to do. But making sure that, I guess what Leslie was getting at, that we train them how to do it properly. Otherwise, we don't want them doing it. But we're definitely going to have to kind of schedule out a little better when people can go in and out. So we've been talking about having our radio programming have at least like an hour separation or a half-hour separation. You can't go in right after another person. So same with like our video. We haven't kind of decided that's what we're going to do yet, but the other concept was we just buy more equipment, right, and allow them to do it more remotely. But it's a good question, and handling it in our shared, all of our desk space are a shared space, and we don't want to necessarily take computers away like some of you said because we only have so many. But they're definitely not 6 feet apart. And so making sure that we kind of set up office hours schedules that only certain people are in. And then that kind of helps out with what Alan was saying, that we don't wipe out the entire sales staff because we had a physical sales meeting and someone got sick. We'd rather still continue to do meetings maybe virtually or 2 meetings at a time with half the staffs, that kind of thing. So if there's other concepts like that you guys are kind of thinking about that might help us all with our operational plans.
Nathan, one thing we did that we're doing with our television studio and the radio station is that we're doing what a lot of restaurants are doing, where they have 2 separate stations of used equipment and then unused, like clean equipment. So that way we can have students, once they use something, they'll put it in a certain part, and then we're going to actually have the office staff or whoever the staff member is that's working during that time will be in charge of sanitizing it and moving it to the clean station for the next round of people to use.
All right, I've got another office question. Food. In terms of people bringing in food, we typically have pizza or some other food in a couple days a week. Is it safe to assume any sort of communal food is verboten? And are you doing anything, if you provide any sort of food for your staff, are you planning to do anything, or is that just gone?
gone.
At Gonzaga, we were told no communal food. That is that's one of them. But
I was also thinking about taking away their fridge and microwave in there, but I don't know yet because it gets a lot of use. But
yeah, and the work shift.
Caught my eye.
Yeah, and that work shift for the newspaper goes what, 5-6 hours, sometimes longer. And so they need food, but and we used to provide pizza, right? So there's not going to be communal food, and I know we don't have it in our budget to provide like individual wrap sandwiches.
Right.
And so I don't know if we're going to go to food allowance and give people some money or what, but yeah, no communal food at Gonzaga.
Now is the time to trade your dining services for some meal plans. Am I right? Yeah, we're still on the edge about whether I think we're going to still supply the fridge and the microwave, but not have stuff kept there more than a day or two. I think is where we're headed. Bring it for the day, take it home. Bring it for the day, take it home. But our communal food was killed because of budget reasons years ago, so.
I was gonna say, we don't, other than on election night, and well, that rule still just may get broken because Lord only knows what that night will look like anyway. So.
We're definitely getting rid of lounge spaces. The hanging out, the napping on the couch, we're just not gonna let that happen.
Where do you put all that? When you get rid of it, where is your space to put things, large things like a couch or tables? Where does that go?
Well,
area.
Well, you can
Sorry?
either sell it, right? It's going to come to my house. No. I'm lucky enough, I have a storage unit where we keep like our huge marquee sign that we use for our concerts, and we keep a lot of other stuff. So that's where that's going. We're going to buy a cover to put over it so it lasts while it's there. But
we're planning to put a lot of that stuff just in our conference room because we measured out you could only have like 3 people in there and have them be far enough apart anyways. So it's not worth using that space. So we can use that for storage for some of the computers and furniture.
also, that's gross, Sarah.
Yeah.
I didn't clean mine either. It's fine.
Now I'm starting to wonder if we have. I'll go check.
Our school told us when we left to leave as if we weren't coming back until December. So we cleaned ours out.
Mm-hmm. Great. This has been a good conversation. I don't know if there's other things you guys want to talk about. We have essentially a half hour left scheduled. But I've got a big long list here of the things that you guys have kind of talked about that maybe we could send out if you took notes yourself. But I for those of you that kind of haven't gotten word, there's definitely some trends that I think are worth mentioning about, coming up with operational plans that have different phases and, what that looks like. And then it sounds like a lot of schools have a similar schedule that they're planning on implementing for the fall at least, and how that impacts us. Anything else that someone's heard or their university is doing or that you're currently doing that hasn't been talked about yet or that you'd like to discuss now? I think we'll just kind of free for all that.
Nathan, I had a question earlier. You mentioned something about an event that you're planning. You said something about possibly doing that virtually. Can you tell us more about what that looks like?
Sure, when I figure it out. No,
okay.
No, yeah, we have one cool thing that we've seen is a lot of we're getting a lot more video, specifically live stream opportunities being talked to about us without having to market it at all. And that's been kind of nice. So like we did a concert in April that was virtual, where we pre-recorded the bands in the same spot throughout multiple days, and then we uploaded those. But the Day on the Quad event I was talking about, we partner with the Student Involvement Office who throws it, and it's usually like this big carnival and all that. Well, that's been nixed. And any event we have to plan on our campus, we have to submit like a plan, again, minimizing risk. It gets turned into a committee and they have to approve it. And so far, we've submitted 3, so like our cheer squad tryouts in our department, they submitted it and it still hasn't been approved, and we're about 2 months out now. So that's something that some of your schools might start adopting, that when you want to throw an event, it's almost like a 2-month approval process right now for them to actually say, yes, it's going to happen. But so back to that, we're submitting we'd like to do it in like this S shape, instead of like a big, huge square where people just mingle and move around, to break it up into quads, right? And then do like an S shape and limit the amount of people that go through to those vendors and make sure the tables are 6 feet apart, that kind of stuff. So that's plan A. Plan B, which we've already started, is we're doing like a business directory that's just going on our website. And we're saying, hey guys, we're not sure if Day on the Quad is going to happen as it usually will. So sign up for this directory for free now. And then what will happen is if we move virtual, we'll create the website, and then we're going to go shoot video of essentially the pitch or the promo that that client would have given at their booth. And we're even considering like, how can we maybe do a giveaway? If they come to like our office, we give it away type thing, and figuring out how logistically that would happen. But that's the idea of what the virtual experience would look like, is we're going to upsell from the directory. So you can have a listing, but then we'll upsell what that interaction looks like. So that we do the work for you, because you can't physically do it that one day. We're planning it, so if that's spurring ideas, or if you guys brainstorm and get better ideas, that'd be kind of fun to see. But that's kind of plan B. We're going to try the snake actual event first. And if that doesn't get approved, we'll do it this way. And I think there are vendors out there that stuff that are starting to kind of really pop up and get attention of doing these more virtual like conferences and things like that look like. We don't want to use them yet. I think we can do it ourselves. Right? I'm sure some of you do housing fairs and stuff like that, that we want to practice so that when those things come along, maybe further down the year, we're good at it. I have no idea what to charge for it yet, though.
I have a question. Has anyone, you talked, I think, Nathan, about the business directory, and that would be free and maybe trying to sell from that, but just to kick off with everybody being so, like our community partners being so in limbo of how are we doing, or we don't know if we're opening and how we're opening and what kind of budget we'll have. Is there any kind of goodwill giving away kind of things like that that everyone's doing that you can then turn into hopefully sales down the road, or what sorts of things have you all been thinking about that make us a better community partner to help out our advertisers, but yet try to still make some money for when you can? Has that been discussed already? This is my first one of these, so I'm sorry.
We actually did that in March, April, May. There's a little bit of it continuing now when it all started. So we first opened it up to current customers that had to shut down, and then put it out there to other, and we really just targeted at the time restaurants, bars, that sort of thing. And we limited what we gave away. It was mostly social media and some online packages. And it was good PR for us. We got written about in the Indiana Business Journal. My PR team sent a press release. So we're hoping that will turn into some new business and also help us keep some customers, even if they can't spend as much. But because we've just started, we also had a moratorium on sales up until last week. We were not actively selling anything. So I don't really know what that's going to do for us. But I will let you know if it did anything. So that's what we did.
Thank you.
Speaking of the housing fair, are any of y'all signed up with that Rent College Pads? I keep getting calls from them like all the time. and I don't know what to do about it. Because we do our own thing, and it actually works out pretty well, but I don't know if you guys have used them or not.
Our SGA signed an agreement with them, despite the fact that we have housing.dailytoreador.com. And our SGA knew that and still signed the contract. So not my favorite people, but so they haven't bothered us because they already went through the student government. So
is there any way to take all their money to market it? Like, I mean, charge them 1 billion times? Like, just curious, because we're kind of in a similar situation where we think the student government did the exact same thing that you described, and it's probably too far gone for us to save it potentially. So, or by save it, I mean interrupt and blow up their plans. So I think that I'm just trying to find a sunny side to it. So if anybody is down that road, I am all ears. Since they're going to do their own housing fair, apparently, even though we have the best one. So.
This kind of goes back to the goodwill question. We've tried to have our site, it's called Aggie Cribs. We've had it for about 5 years now. We've used different vendors that have been sponsors of CMBAM and stuff like that. We've tried to create our own, and that only goes so well. We haven't really made a lot of money out of it, and the student government wasn't really interested in partnering. And so I'm trying to own the conversation. So it sounds like you, Ellen, are a little bit further. It's a little further along than that. But I'm trying to, the first thing I've got to do is, so the first goodwill reach out that I've really focused on right now is auxiliaries on campus, right? The ones that are nonprofits, the bookstores, the housing and them, and trying to come up with a partnership like a website or something like that, or like a virtual housing fair that like is trying to come up with ideas like that to try to mix, to show them a good partner on campus, maybe offer them the free advertising because they're the ones that have to cut their budgets significantly this year. So I'm just trying to be a part of those conversations. I don't necessarily think I'm guiding them, but I think it's like, say, hey, student government, we want to be a part of that conversation because we can help make it good, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that's the right approach, and that's what we would have done if student government would have included us in there. So I think the earlier the better, because yeah, I think there's a way for everybody to make it work together. My biggest concerns are not so much that they will have a better product than we will or be that much more effective, but that it will just obviously split the dollars that the places are spending, and it will just weaken our position. So but I agree with you. Is trying to do it that way is probably the best way.
I will say that the number one thing for those of you that aren't familiar or dealing with it right now, what I'm getting is the number one thing that Rent College Pads is after is just a URL that looks like the university. They don't care how they get it. They don't care who they get it through. That's the underlying. If they can get that, they're happy. And so we're saying, well, maybe we could, but we already have like this other URL that exists. And so I'm saying housing's never going to say yes to them. Student government won't, because they're in our department and they won't do that to me like you've experienced. So I'm saying I'll have the conversation with you because no one else will. But that's where it's at. But for those of you that are dealing with them, that's the number one thing that they want. And so whether you can provide that or not, or if like the university says no and then you want to have that conversation, that's definitely what they're after.
Yeah, us being independent of the university is hurting us in this situation. You're exactly right.
And yet, oh, we got a hug. Nice. Any other topics you guys want to discuss or ideas and concepts? This has been really helpful for me to kind of get a list and make sure that I feel like I'm on the right path for what we physically and strategically kind of policy-wise have to do. Still a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to share a cautionary tale because, like Leslie, we are kind of in the midst of printing, or well, we thought it was printed already, our orientation issue, because we are mailing it for the first time ever because virtual orientation. Handy tip if you're doing that. We were lucky enough to get addresses, so that was a small miracle and a lovely day. But make sure if your printer tells you they are well versed in the mailing that they actually are, and they consult with the post office so you don't have to reprint it because they didn't tell you to put the postal box thing in the corner. It's been a week of process. So just cautionary tale for any of you that might have to mail and haven't done that before. And I'm still waiting to make sure it's actually right this time so we can finish printing it.
There we go.
Question, Nathan, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, anyhow, I was just, talking to some members of our Pitt News Advisory Board, which is a publisher of the Pitt News. But we have some people from like Trip Total Media and Pittsburgh Magazine that are on our board. And they're doing something called like a matching funds program, where if you keep your same amount of buy for that month, we'll match additional advertising, okay, or a percentage of the additional advertising to, promote more for you. I'm just wondering if, I hear a lot of talk about everybody is like people are going to advertise less, but at the same time, I'm wondering if that kind of like matching fund grant kind of program could work for student media, and what people's thoughts are about that.
Terry, I saw that our local newspaper's doing that too. They call it the $1 Million Matchup or something. And if local advertisers will advertise June, July, August, you put in an application, they match from $300 to $10,000. And for some reason, I got that email from the publisher, and it, it's one of those touchy-feely emails about building community and trying to help out businesses. But and I understand too that the local weekly newspaper here in Spokane's doing the same thing. And but sort of the deal is you've got to advertise June, July, August, and we don't publish and have no products in the summer. But I kind of was wondering too, is how much goodwill, because everybody's business, we're kind of in phase 2 right now, but still there's businesses, that are not going to ever open up again here, So how much goodwill do we need to do, and to be a good partner?
Yeah, my first gut reaction to that, Terry, is eyebrow raised. That's interesting. I don't think you want to go as far as devaluing your product so much that when we're not COVID situation, they're like, well, you matched us last year, right? That's always an idea. So as I've sat here thinking about it a little more, and as I'm talking, I think I prefer a trade. I think I prefer a, hey, let me help you cut your expenses if you help me cut mine. So if that is, getting the communal food sandwiches that are now wrapped individually from a restaurant instead of you having to buy it and then you give them sandwich, right? That's always been a thing that exists between us all. But I think that's my preference when it comes to being a good partner, is that's what I'm trying to do more of. But I haven't thought about like matching advertising. We've done free PSAs on the radio before. We set aside a certain amount that we give to people for that. But it's an interesting concept. But I think my preference is let's do a straight up help each other trade first. And if that doesn't match, it's an interesting idea to think about. Anybody else?
We already offer, as part of our contract, the way, because per column inch rates, you used to get so much if you, depending on how you spent. So we offer contract credits is what we call them. So and it starts at $3,000. So if you spend at least $3,000 with us and you sign the annual contract, you get $950 in free advertising. And that $950 number comes because we started with the cost of what was a full page ad in print. And then it goes up from there. And there are ranges. So, that's not the same thing. I know that, but I don't know that we would probably offer anything outside of the free that we've already given for that reason. $3,000 isn't a lot to spend over the course of a year. I mean, for some of our smaller businesses, yes, but that's what we do already. So.
And then I have one more question. I'm sorry, I apologize. I came in late because I was at a budget meeting. But I was wondering, I missed a lot of like the operational procedures that you have put in place to deal with reopening in the fall. And I was wondering if CMBAM could like post that on the CMBAM listserv or something like that for us to review and use as benchmarks.
Yeah, I think, Terry, I've been kind of keeping a running list, and some of the other members have, that the idea was that we would send out kind of like here's the trends and here's what people are doing. Even if it's just like a bulleted list, that's probably what we'll do for you.
And we
also record these, so
we can have this video up for you if you wanted to watch that too.
Awesome, great, thank you.
Terry, I started to reply to your other thing, but forgot to unmute myself, as I do. An idea I heard from another school that I think was North Carolina is they're trying to get their like Chamber of Commerce or a business district or whatever to chip in some, whether you call it underwriting or co-op or something, and they're going to customers basically saying that they'll match whatever the customer spends, that the paper will match and the Chamber of Commerce will match. So basically they're spending a third to get a whole, if you want to look at it that way. So different way than the way you explained it, but it might be something else to think about if you have somebody in the area that may have any money to help promote local businesses.
Thank you.
And I apologize, I've been bouncing in and out because I've got 3 different meetings going on right now.
I'm glad you picked us, Charlie.
Yeah. But one of the things that I just thought of that we're actually actively following and researching is because especially if you are at a Regents institution, they're talking and planning their budgets right now too. And so we've actually been following some of our legislators as well and kind of preparing some materials to talk about the importance of student media. If we have to go outside of the system, to get legislative pressure put on some of our regents in that regard, because and that's one of the other meetings that I'm kind of listening to right now between the two, is they're having their budget committee meeting right now. And so I'm trying to pay attention to things that, like, if they think that student media is low hanging fruit to help balance their budget, we need some advocates and different things on different levels throughout the administration, all the way up to legislators within our state. So I actually have a meeting with my representative next week to kind of talk about that issue. So I don't know if that helps, but you should be paying attention to the budget planning processes of your universities if you get funds. If you're 100% on your own, I half envy you right now. But sorry, just got another text. I'm gonna shut up now. Thanks.
I think it's good advice. I think it's something we should always be doing, so that when these situations come along, it's less of a task for us. I think I'm lucky that my department is one that's tied next. And I think a lot of us are tied with student government, tied with some of these other entities that find themselves sometimes in a similar situation. But I think it's good wisdom to just always be doing, right? It's the same with student fees. If you're just barely getting in front of them when it's time for a student fee increase, you're doing it wrong. You need to be in front of them all the time talking about that. So, well, we got just a few minutes left. I want to thank everyone for participating in this one. Leslie, you want to talk about any upcoming stuff that we have programming-wise for membership?
We don't have another webinar yet, but I plan to keep doing these every other week. So if you have any topic suggestions, just send those and we'll get them on the agenda. And then also register for Mega Workshop. It's up. If you have questions, let me know. CMBAM is priced per school, per track. as opposed to per person per track. So 169 for all of your staff, for ad managers, 169 for all of your staff for the representative boot camp.
Yeah, and just another plug. I'm sure everyone who's been reading maybe it came through the listserv. You know, at U of M, our students have mostly been focused on their internships to secure jobs beyond college. So they haven't been able to attend the ad rep boot camp or the ad manager workshop. But you know, there are other schools who don't have students working right now on their campuses either. And since all of this will be recorded, obviously the best way is to have students attend the daily sessions and participate in the Q&A in the evening. But if you can't, these are going to make excellent training videos for your staffs. So investing in those 2 tracks to be able to have access to for the entire year is definitely something U of M is going to do, just even if we don't have students that are able to actually be bodies on a Zoom, in Zoom training in July.
And there's been a little confusion about the registration process. When you log into the registration portal, go ahead and just book the CMBAM tracks as an advisor. Don't actually sign your students up for them or anything like that. You'll still get billed the correct amount, and then you'll get put on our email list, and we'll email the links out to all of the advisors so that they can distribute those Zoom invitations and stuff to the participants that they want to attend live. And like Leslie said, we're doing this because we realize everybody's been impacted by a lot of these financial challenges. I'll try and be positive and optimistic about the situation. And we felt that it just wouldn't be realistic to ask people to pay for individual students, especially in our environment. We tend to team train anyway, so it just seemed to fit our organizational model better than what our partner organizations were planning on doing as far as pricing goes. And I apologize if there's been any confusion on the listservs and stuff. We're trying to get that hammered out and sorted out as quickly as possible, but we are sticking to our guns, and we are only offering organizational, I don't know what you call it, subscriptions, registrations. Thank you. Sorry, it's been a long day.
All right, with that, make sure you go out and buy yourself some disinfectant wipes. Oh, Carly's got another thing.
One more question.
We all got a drink.
Why? What's the drink queue?
Disinfectant wipes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. As all of the student media organizations are starting to do more of these types of engagements, it seems like everybody has piled on the time that we kind of pioneered. Would everybody be okay or have availability on Wednesdays? Because that seems to be a day that isn't as, I don't know, well attended. I don't want to have to force people to choose between organizations if we can avoid it.
Quite a bit of thumbs up there.
Okay, perfect.
Can we do earlier in the day instead of 4 o'clock Eastern time?
We drinking early?
Well, that's kind of the hard part. Is we picked 2 o'clock because it was kind of dialed in for the coasts. But we can probably talk. We'll talk with the board to see if we can maybe scooch it up an hour. Would that work? Perfect. Okay. Well, that's all I had. I'll turn it back over to Nathan. Sorry.
I'll just say goodbye. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Really appreciate these. They are very helpful.
Thank you. See y'all later.
Bye, y'all.